And good morning. Today we are flying the J7W2, and you can tell it's an upgraded aircraft for one reason. There's no propeller in the back. Yeah, it's the same J7W with a jet engine in it. Let's go over this real briefly. Alright, so we got the full engine upgrade, and that I just had to purchase and mount it. I don't know if that's from the German line or what, but nonetheless, there you go. This came straight out of the J7W1, and there's one cannon upgrade to go, and that's going to give us an additional, it's going to raise the DPS from 880 to 1200, which will be fairly awesome. And then he comes with two 500-pound bombs, actually 250 kilograms, so multiply that by 2.2, and you'll see it's more than a 500-pound bomb. Okay, so that takes care of the actual specifications for the upgrades. What I got on this. One of this aircraft's big failings is its lack of maneuverability. And so in Tier 8, it could not put up with the Spitfires, the KI-94, some of the other quick turners in the Russian line. Failed to all of them, on top of which it was kind of slow. And it didn't have much altitude capability. What it had is a big gun and ability to carry a couple of bombs. As for let's talk about the historical facts first. We know that the J7W1 existed because we have pictures of it. It actually flew a couple of times. There were two of them, and that's as far as they went. There were plans to build this, but they hadn't got their engine totally worked out yet, and the war ended. You've heard the story before. The first J7W1 flew the day they dropped the bomb on Nagasaki. The second flight took place on Hiroshima. The first flight took place on the bombing of Hiroshima, and the second flight took place in the bombing of Nagasaki. And then Japan surrendered 10 days later. So that was a total. These things have been through a couple of flight tests at that point, and it was a preliminary sort, so we don't really have any documentation on them, except what they expected to get out of it, and it was proving out to be a pretty good aircraft. But that's literally all we know. This aircraft is notional. They hadn't really got the engines working the way they should yet, which is no surprise. Nobody was getting them working except the British had gotten the Whittle engine working pretty well. That's a centrifugal type of jet. Type is not used anymore. But the axial flows are tough for a number of reasons. The U.S. got them working because they had access to strategic materials such as molybdenum and chromium and vanadium, and you can make very high temperature metals out of that. But to get an engine really working, especially in axial flow, it has to be able to put up with 1800 degrees centigrade. And that's pretty hot, folks. Blowtorch hot. So now modern jets are made from stuff called Inconel. And it's a real mouthful, but it's a very exotic blend of steel and all sorts of exotic materials, and it was vanadium and molybdenum and chromium and various other things, and it's grown as a single crystal. So if you took a microscope and you could look at the structure of the steel, it would be one crystalline structure from the beginning to the end. That allows them to get tens of thousands of hours out of turbine blades. At this stage of technology, the Germans were getting about 25 to 30 hours maximum. 30 hours would be the outside max, and I've heard various stories, but in use they counted on 20 to 25 hours. But, you know, considering your average flight would be 2 to 3 hours long, yeah, you get the idea. All right, so in flight, its predecessor was slow, shy of altitude, and not very turny. What it did have was ferocious firepower, and it carried a couple of bombs. It is par excellence at killing bombers. But if you have to go over high-flying RB-17s and that sort of stuff, this thing is just not your aircraft. If you get involved with a turn and burn, which you quite frankly can, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Here we're getting some relief. The maximum speed now is 49.29, or 49.21, excuse me. I can read, honestly. So you should be able to get 7,000 feet out of this. That'll help a little bit. Your airspeed is still very slow. Your cruise, and the true measure of this is in cruise speed. So when you start looking at other Tier 9s, and I'm going to kick this over to Tier 9, give you an idea where it sits. 729 is where it's going to sit at. The other Japanese aircraft is sitting at 300 aircraft, the KI-162-1. The P-1092 is just fast enough. It's sitting at 327. What I consider more representative is an attacker at 341. Here's an LA-160. And if you get in a turning contest with this, it's going to get ugly real quick. 9.3, and you're looking at 10.5 on the other. Let's take a look at something else here. Here's the Thunderjet, another multi-purpose. He can't outturn you. Okay. And his altitude is only slightly better. So you can see that it fits very well in the multi-role category. The paucity of ordnance is, however, you know, you've got no less than 12 folding fin rockets here, high velocity rockets, and then you have Havar rockets, sorry. And then you got two tiny Tims under this. You know, you got on this aircraft, you've got the actual ordnance of a GA aircraft that moves and fights. So it's a more versatile aircraft in my opinion. Now J7W2 though compares better than against that type of aircraft. Now, when you're talking about maneuverability in an attacker, you're getting 9.9 with all its upgrades. And now it has some fairly good upgrades on that. But that's a pretty twisty aircraft. So there we have it. Let's take it to battle. Hopefully I won't make a total ass out of myself. But I have been known to do this on a regular basis, so what we see is what we get. What I'm not trying necessarily to win or lose here is to give you a feel for what it's capable of. It's my first flight, so bear with me here. I hope I like it better than I did the J7W1, which frankly I didn't like much. Enjoying my coffee this morning, so if you hear the occasional gulp, that's just me wetting my very thirsty, very dry mouth. As you say in my time, it feels like the 1st Infantry Division marched through mud and then through my mouth. This thing is good. My German chocolate cake coffee. I'm such a hedonist. All right. Let's see where we go here.
Cover your allies. Hit the enemy, and we shall win.
See what we got here for... well, it's me against a division. That's not all that great. And I will never be able to touch the RB-17 unless he gets low. Also not great. But I've always thought these were pretty aircraft. So that's got to count for something. Alright, we're going to go after that command base. Try to get the bombers going here.
You are approaching the front line. Off we go.
And this is mostly a tier 8 match, and I'm in a tier 9. We've got Nitro 97, 96 here. Sorry. Now, notice something on that particular... Let's see, better get rid of the plane here. I'll get some flaps going. And I should have superior thrust. If I don't, I've got something really wrong here. I hope the next gun upgrade gives me something a little less archy. The firepower is more than adequate. You gotta admit that for what it's worth. Okay. Got that done. Let's pull those flaps back in. I'm slow enough without getting additional help. And I see they've all but captured the stronghold. That's great. And I have something coming in from the side here. Nothing to worry about. You notice one strike does tend to really leave an impression on them. 2 killed it. Yeah, pretty sure I know who that is. Okay. Did I mention I don't like the guns much? Now it's be made imagined. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied there a little bit. The P-51 doesn't have anything on one of these. A little faster, and he can't outmaneuver you. Well, I didn't mind you shooting me up. Honestly, I didn't. Okay. When you hit with the guns, they're great. It's the hitting with them that seems to cause us some trouble here. And folks, I apologize, but it looks like the other side's got the much better bots. It's just irritating. I need to drop a couple of bombs here. Do what we can to take back the as soon as I get back some ordnance here, we'll take another run at it. I did mention the guns are short range, 1900 feet, so no better than cannon. But that did take care of that problem. We'll be out of this game in just a minute, but it does give you a very good feeling for the strengths and weaknesses of the aircraft. Bots aside, ferocious guns, once you get used to the arc, it will provide quite a bit of firepower for you. I didn't consider that to be all that good a showing, and yet I came in number 1, which gives you a very good idea of the support we were getting from the team. I'm sure the other Falco members, they're always good, but I'm pretty sure the bots got us on that occasion. Okay, so we killed 6 aircraft, and we got no assistance there, which means that nobody was really firing on what I was firing on. We did 12,852 points of damage, and considering you only get a pair of you might as well call them 550-pound bombs, because that's what they would be. That's pretty good. And when you look at the team score, that tells the rest of the story. Yeah. Trailer Park King here, Trailer Park Rex, came in 2, I came in 1, and the RB-17 and SU-9 seemed to do pretty well. Death Nail and Desert 786 did well. But the bots also seem to do a lot better. Not a good matchup on our end. Obviously, I can kill RB-17s if I can catch them, but as you saw, he was running away from me. So you can't catch them in height, you can't catch them in speed. If I could make a suggestion to World of Warplanes here, and these are just suggestions for what they're worth, the aircraft needs to be a little more competitive. Needs to be faster, for one thing. Needs to have some altitude capabilities, and turn time is fine. Because of this tier, a lot of the things that were super twisty aren't super twisty anymore. You do have the attacker, but you're within a half a second, 0.6 of a second of them properly outfitted. There's going to be a couple of the true turn and burns out there, and this is one of them. Yeah, you're not going to do better than that. Very twisty aircraft, but the lack of speed and the lack of altitude capability are just too crippling. This needs to be, if you're going to make it a multi-role, then it has to have more bite than two 550-pound bombs, or two 250-kilogram bombs, as you wish. You need to have better than a 280, might as well call it, mile an hour airspeed. At Tier 9, that's criminal. Guys, come on. This thing was supposed to be an interceptor. I think it would be better served if you kicked it up into the heavy fighter role. And, it can still carry its bombs and still have some altitude, and then kick up its speed somewhat. That would make it a little more competitive. It wouldn't be quite as frustrating an aircraft. Because when you get to, if I remember correctly, when you go up here to the J7W2, it's the same thing. You've given the customer the same experience for 3 aircraft in a row. And nobody wants that. You want a more, you want a competitive aircraft. Can you compete with it? Yeah, obviously I did okay with this. Could you do a lot better with a little more speed, a little more altitude? Yes. The firepower is ferocious. Wouldn't change a thing about it, except, it's just so archy. It's hard to hit with. And if you fly it often enough, you'll get used to it. Not a big deal. It's still held a dogfight when not only do you have to pull a lead, but then you have to pull an exceptional lead to hit with it. That makes it a little difficult. Other than that, I like the aircraft, but it's difficult and it's frustrating in some ways. And I don't think I'm going to like this any better than I did the J7W1, to be honest with you. Maybe the gun will change my mind. And we will get an upgrade here. The gun is, 55,000 points away. So when we get that, we'll have a fully upgraded aircraft. I'll be able to report it to you, and we'll take it from there. All right, that will do it for today. Please remember to like the video and to subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.